The episode opens with Jim receiving an unexpected call from Thomas, his deceased son. Shocked, Jim says, "You can't be my son." But Thomas begins to accuse him, saying, "You abandoned Mom, left her to die. Maybe you think that my mom, Tabitha, doesn't really love you." Jim, overwhelmed, interrupts, demanding that Thomas stop talking nonsense. Jim continues to deny that Thomas is his son, but Thomas persists, saying, "Both of your kids are outside. Do you think they'll make it home before nightfall?" Panic sets in, and Jim rushes outside to find Ethan and Julie. Spotting them, he warns them that it's almost evening and they need to hurry home. Boyd is there as well and asks if everything is okay. Jim assures him it is, but admits that things are getting worse. With urgency, he takes his children back home. Meanwhile, Henry wakes up and notices that Tabitha isn't with him. Suddenly, he hears the sound of glass breaking. It's Tabitha, who accidentally dropped a glass and hurt her finger. Henry carefully bandages her hand and realizes she hasn't slept all night. Concerned, he suggests she get some rest. Tabitha then shares what happened in the town, explaining that Victor led her to a tree and told her that his mom had entered that same tree to save the children. Victor had told her that if she wanted to save the kids, she should go into the tree as well. She admits that, without Victor's urging, she might not have gone through with it. Just then, Tabitha hears the sound of glass bottles clinking outside and asks Henry about it. Henry explains that there's a tree outside with bottles hanging from it and offers to show her. They go outside, and Henry leads her to the tree, explaining that his wife, Miranda, used to hang bottles from the branches. Miranda enjoyed hanging bottles on trees throughout the town, but this tree was her favorite, and she visited it often. Tabitha then mentions that the tree she emerged from also had a bottle hanging on it, but unlike this one, it was hollow and allowed her to pass through it. Henry recalls another tree that was Miranda's favorite, but it's farther away. When Tabitha insists on going to see it immediately, Henry agrees and puts her in the car to drive her there. Meanwhile, in the town, Victor is seen holding a diary filled with drawings of trees. He begins measuring the ground with his feet, eventually stopping near a tree and starting to dig a hole. At the police station, Boyd is with his son, Ellis, explaining his plan to capture one of the creatures using the talisman stone. Ellis is against the idea, arguing that they don't know enough about the creatures to even consider capturing one and insisting that Boyd shouldn't go. Boyd is determined, though, saying they can't just sit around doing nothing. He mentions spending a night in the forest, without being harmed, and points out that Kenny and Jim also spent a night outside in the forest and returned safely the next morning. They had food with them, so staying outside for a night didn't solve anything. Despite his reasoning, Ellis pleads with Boyd not to go. Just then, Donna enters and notices the tension between father and son. She notices the father and son arguing and asks why. Boyd starts explaining that he is planning to capture one of the creatures that night. But Donna warns him that he's taking a dangerous risk and that nothing will be gained from it. Boyd insists that he will capture one of the creatures, interrogate it, and even torture it if needed, hoping to get some answers. But Donna argues that it's the wrong thing to do, and that they could be putting themselves in even more danger. Donna tells Alice that he just needs to stop thinking about himself, because he now has a baby to take care of. Saying this, Donna leaves. We see Fatima waking up in the morning, where a girl named Clara is cooking food, using the fat of a cow that died the night before. However, Fatima is disturbed by all of this and steps outside. Outside, there's a pile of garbage with rotting vegetables, and Fatima starts eating them. An old woman named Tilly notices this. Fatima gets scared and runs away. We then see Kenny heading towards the woods. A group is seen with Jade, Christy, and Dale accompanying them. They arrived at the spot where Kenny and Jim had rested and stayed overnight. Kenny suggests that they spend the night there as it seems safe. Meanwhile, Jim is seen preparing food for his son, Ethan, and he tells him that he needs to eat a little for now. He assures Ethan that when Kenny brings food for them, he can have a full meal. Julie joins them but doesn't eat. Ethan then starts talking about his mom, asking, if my mom was killed, who would have buried her? Jim tries to stop him, saying, don't talk like that, but Ethan keeps insisting, asking how his mom might have died. Jim, frustrated, scolds Ethan, and Ethan walks away, followed by Julie, who also gets upset and leaves. Now, Jim is left alone in the house. Suddenly, the phone rings, but Jim doesn't answer it. Boyd is seen working on a board. At the same time, Father Catry appears. But it's clear he's not really there, he's a figment of Boyd's mind. Father Catry starts questioning Boyd, asking, what's your plan? How will you trap them? Are you going to lock them in a room? Do you have a plan? He continues, reminding Boyd that people have died trying to help others. I was killed because I helped people. Then Miss Chan was killed because she was helping others too. I think you'll be the next one to die. Father Catry suggests that the creatures, or monsters, want Boyd to change completely, but Boyd resists the idea. Boyd, frustrated with his own thoughts, angrily tells Father Catry to leave him alone. Meanwhile, we see Victor arriving at Sarah's house. She is busy trying to fix a broken jar. Sarah invites Victor inside and tells him, this jar was a gift from my brother, but now it's broken, and I'm trying to fix it. Victor asks her, do you have an extra bed? I'm planning to stay here tonight, and I'll tell you a story too. Sarah agrees to this arrangement. On the other hand, we see Fatima fixing her bed when there's a knock at the door. It's Tilly, but Fatima doesn't want to talk to anyone. She tells Tilly, please leave. I'm not feeling well. Tilly responds, I know you're pregnant, and I've helped many pregnant women. Let me help you too. Fatima finally opens the door and begins to cry, confessing, I don't know what to do. I'm constantly worried about my baby. I'm not sure if everything is going to be all right. Tilly reassures her, saying, every pregnant woman feels the same at first, so your worries are understandable. But don't worry, I'll take care of you. Meanwhile, they watch the people who have gone into the jungle to get food. Among the group in the jungle, Jade starts expressing his frustration, saying he feels trapped and that they should leave. Dale, however, insists they can't leave without securing some food. When Jade steps away for a moment, he notices a strange stone and suddenly sees a dead man appear before him, grabbing him. He quickly realizes it's a hallucination. Nearby, Kenny with Christy, who is gathering vegetables. Christy pleads with Kenny to talk to her, but he's in no mood for conversation. Just then, they notice Jade approaching, with Dale trying to hold him back. Jade insists he's leaving because he's been seeing strange things around and feels an urgent need to return home. Kenny warns him against it, saying he won't make it back to town before nightfall and it's safer to stay sheltered. But Jade doesn't listen and starts walking away. Christy tries to stop him. As she follows, Christy's foot gets caught in a trap. Jade quickly turns back to help her. Kenny and Dale arrive, and Kenny angrily blames Jade for the accident. Christy tries to diffuse the tension, urging them to stop arguing and focus on helping her. They attempt to open the cage, but it won't budge. Jade grabs a wooden stick and tries to pry it open, but the cage remains stuck. Frustrated, Dale says, at this rate, we'll be here all night. We should carry Christy, cage and all, back to the shelter. Jade replies, I have another idea. He pulls Dale along and heads into the woods where several scarecrows are standing. Jade takes 2 metal rods from one of the scarecrows, planning to use them to open the trap. Meanwhile, Kenny stays with Christy, reassuring her, I won't let anything happen to you. Christy, sensing the danger, replies, if something does happen to me, promise you won't be alone. Stay with everyone. Kenny responds, don't talk like that. I won't let anything happen to you, no matter what. Just then, Jade and Dale return with the metal rods. Working together, they manage to pry open the cage, finally freeing Christy's leg. Her leg is broken, and she instructs Kenny on how to twist it to set the bone. He follows her directions, and Christy grits her teeth through the intense pain. Afterward, they lift her and begin carrying her back toward the shelter. Meanwhile, We find Ethan working at a diner, washing dishes alongside a woman. Boyd is there, watching and commending Ethan for his hard work. The woman mentions that if Miss Chan was still around, she'd be thrilled to see her restaurant being kept up. She adds that they'll continue to run the place just like this, even though Miss Chan is gone. Boyd nods, saying, "That's a really good thing." The woman then speaks warmly about Ethan, noting how much he's been through, and yet how hard he's working and helping out. Boyd turns to her and asks, "And you? How are you doing?" She replies, "I'm fine," then asks Boyd how he's holding up. Boyd says, "We don't need to be afraid of this place. There has to be a way out of here." Ethan, visibly upset, responds, "If there were a way out, my mom wouldn't have disappeared, and Miss Chan wouldn't have died." With that, he goes back inside. We then see Fatima being led somewhere by an older woman named Tilly. Tilly tells her, "I have tarot cards, and I can use them to see if your baby is alright." Fatima replies, "I'm not doing this. I thought you were going to show me something different, but instead, you're just messing with my head. You're no different from Sun's woman." The old woman responds, "Today, you can call me Sun's woman. But these tarot cards have helped my grandmother, and they're helping me too. These tarot cards reveal the future, and they'll tell you about your baby too, I'm certain of it," says Tilly, convincing a hesitant Fatima. Eventually, Fatima agrees, and Tilly starts preparing the tarot cards for her. "Ask them anything, and they'll answer you," she says. Fatima then asks if her baby is okay, but just as she reaches for a card, a crow crashes into the window. She tries to choose another, but the crow breaks through the glass, flies frantically around the room, then crashes into a wall and dies, frightening everyone around. Meanwhile, inside the bus, Randall notices a fly on the window. Suddenly, more flies appear, this time inside, making him anxious. But as Boyd arrives, the flies vanish, revealing they were just in Randall's imagination. Boyd says, "Let's switch jobs today. You'll handle the police station, and I'll stay on the bus to watch over the others. Because today I'm going to catch one of them," referring to the monsters. Randall agrees to the plan. In another town, Tabitha is with Henry, walking towards a large tree. She starts searching for food inside a nearby car and finds a bracelet that surprises her. "I made this bracelet for my husband, but it got lost. I later found this same bracelet inside a car people call the diner car. How did you end up with it?" she asks. Henry replies, "Miranda made this bracelet for me. I've had it ever since." Tabitha, feeling confused, mutters, "I think I'm losing my mind. I don't know what's happening to me, just let me out of the car." "I'm not going anywhere," Tabitha insists. But Henry reassures her, "The tree is just a little further. Let me show you." He starts driving, but they soon get into an accident. Both are taken to an ambulance. Henry is badly injured, while Tabitha's injuries are minor. When Tabitha regains consciousness, she realizes she's still in the ambulance. The paramedics tell her, "You're fine," but Henry is hurt more seriously. They assure her Henry will recover, but they're taking her to the hospital because she had previously run away. Tabitha protests, "I'm not going anywhere. Let me out here, please." Just then, the ambulance halts. They find a massive fallen tree blocking the road. Realizing she's somehow back in the town, Tabitha is struck by the eerie familiarity. With this suspenseful twist, the episode ends.